Welcome back to Season 6 of Time to Change.
We have some amazing conversations lined up from people doing the work. I'm excited for those and the change that it'll hopefully spark.
I can't wait to jump in. So let's get started. Welcome back to Time to Change. This guy right over here is my handsome co-host, Dom Jones, in the house. I am Jason Forehand with HR for You Incorporated, and today we have got a treat for you. I have two ladies in the house that we are going to talk about. Nic, the bipolar writer, you may know her as also Nic, Guiding Brilliant Writers Publishing, and she is with Leslie Flowers. Leslie Flowers has been in the blazing trails for many years as with business leaders, has been for decades leveraging the laws of achievement and timeless success principles, and she is an acclaimed writer. Her new book, The Possibilities of eRADA, is out. That's that QR code right above Dom's shoulder. Show him, Dom. Oh, and there's the book.
Even better. Even
Scan
better.
that QR code, get your copy of the book, and without any further ado, Leslie, please tell us a little bit about yourself. Thank you for being on our show, and thank you for being here, Nic. Leslie, tell us a little bit about you and what's brought you to this book.
Well, I've lived a long and wonderful and blessed life, so I'll see if I can't give you the high points. So I was born in New York, raised in Massachusetts, North Carolina, ended up in San Francisco, the Bay Area, where I went to San Francisco State University, majored in drama and philosophy. I was a stewardess, flew troops into Vietnam and out of Vietnam, married with 2 children, 4 grandchildren, and always loved drama and presenting. And I've been in personal development for 25 years and was in corporate for 45 years. The personal development piece is I love learning and the mindset work. And I was always interested in it even when I was younger. And then I spent about 10 years in personal development from 96 to 06. And then in 07, I went and got myself certified under Bob Proctor, who was the world's leader, and he's passed away, in Carnegie's Principles of Success and Think and Grow Rich. And since that time, it's 17 years, I have written 12 books, all nonfiction except for one, The Possibility of eRADA, taught for 20,000 hours and run 65 quarterly masterminds during that time, teaching people how to think and grow rich and happy, healthy, and wealthy. So that's a little rundown for me.
I'm here still in
an
New York.
underachiever. What are you doing?
Oh, that's good.
I mean, it was very casual too. It's like, I did this. And I love that. I love that you're very comfortable in your skin and that you have done so many amazing things. We're here to talk a little bit about your new book, and that's why we have the QR code. That's why you guys are here. That's why Nic is here to celebrate with you. Nic, quick question for you. How did you and Leslie meet?
Wow, that's a good one. And I'll tell it as quickly as possible. So I was trolling Leslie long before I met her. A couple of years ago, she was on a show with another host a couple of times a week, and I would go to that show. Well, I made a comment one day that I just loved everything she was sharing. I was so excited to find somebody else that was in alignment with my thoughts. And I shared that my mom had passed away and her name was Leslie. And somehow Leslie and I really connected over that. Time went by and we engaged with each other and such. But I wouldn't say until it was more recently that we really started being more in each other's circles. Big part of that started last year when Leslie also joined the trilogy of anthologies that you wrote in, Jason. And she wrote in the same book book 2 with you, which is we came as professionals, we make impact as people. So I want to say that fast friends since around that time. I, fairly new to this whole writing and publishing, and Leslie, being as seasoned as she is, was very kind to share knowledge with me, allow me to bounce ideas off of her, and in very, very many ways has shown me that I have my own greatness in it, which I think is huge because a lot of people, when they have a tremendous amount of experience, it's very difficult for them to uh, watch somebody else grow, right? Beyond what they say, this is the standard. But Leslie's an extremely adaptable woman and very loyal, and very caring. Listen, I got roses twice at Island Elevator from her. Okay.
Oh, that's awesome.
We spoke with Nick in a previous episode, and something that emerged for me was this willingness to step out in an area that may be new, but you feel a sense of giftedness in it, and you go for it. And I'm wondering, that makes me curious about your particular journey with such a background in the corporate and the business space. You then decided to take a step into writing. So first, what made you take that leap? What was kind of some of the thinking or the pull that you felt there? And then to build on that, most of your work has been in nonfiction. So the pivot into fiction, curious what prompted that as well.
Well, first, let me share with you that I've been writing since I was about 15. When I studied philosophy at San Francisco State and drama is when I really began writing, and when I studied literature. So when I was 17, I wrote an extra chapter in 5 different books in my English class. So I finished up all these books that I thought I could do a better job. In the voice of the author, I wrote an additional paragraph. It was Dante's Inferno by Dante Caligari, I think his name is. There should be a 10th circle. Also in the voice of Mark Twain, I continued Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn, a better ending, I thought. Voltaire's Candide. I was not happy with the end of that book by any means. So at the end, I had Canegatti and the guy in there get together, which, if you know the story of Candide, they separated, right? And they didn't get back together. And then another one was in the middle of reading Beckett's Waiting for Godot at 2 a.m., I stopped, put the book down, and wrote a 3-act play. So I've always written all the way through the years with blogging. It's been part of me. But my studies have put me into the nonfiction category because I'm an expert in principles of success and goal achievement and time management, just all sorts of different things. And so that's where I wrote. But one of the things that I've developed is the muscle of imagination, something that I've discovered with most of my clients and most people. The last thing they heard about imagination was Chasen, stop daydreaming and pay attention to the lesson. Right. So all of us, Dom, have had our imagination kind of atrophy. So the work that I've been doing has built the muscle, if you will, of imagination, which grows in direct proportion to its use, like any muscle. And the process of visualization allowed me to get into fiction. So that's that. And this fiction started 25 years ago. So it didn't get finished until 2 years ago. So that kind of gives you, I've always been a writer, right? And writing in other people's voices. I'm a gold standard line editor. I was for several years when I helped a client become a publisher. Mm-hmm. And I knew the process because I did publishing in corporate. So, things have changed a lot. But the standards and the integrity around the industry still need to be kept. So that's kind of, it's just what I love to do. I mean, it's just fun. fun. It's
You
not.
love to do it, and you sound confident because you mentioned finishing some writers, and the fact that you mentioned Mark Twain
Oh yeah.
as
Oh
one,
yeah.
as one that you said, let me do a better job and pick this up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was 17 and I was arrogant, right? I was very arrogant, and I flew troops into Vietnam in the 60s, and I wrote a lot about that and had some of my poetry and that I had written published in Vietnam journals, etc., because I really wanted to help the servicemen, but I also personally wanted to get to Japan and Thailand and Hawaii and the Philippines. So I did that living in San Francisco, and I would travel that route. And it was all fun for me. All fun. Everything has been just a lot of fun.
Leslie
I,
has an incredible legacy. She really, really does.
Thank you.
yeah.
Um, it's a very good story. And I'm sorry, Jason, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine. I'm going to read a little segment that's actually on the back cover, I believe, of her book. And then I have a question for you. Remember, folks, you can scan this QR code, but definitely go get a copy of The Possibility of eRADA. And check this out. Imagine if there was a world beyond what we could see. What if our dreams were not just dreams? What if there was a place where we could live and love in peace and harmony? What if science fiction romance wasn't fiction? I love that. I love that. Leslie, when you wrote this, what was your vision?
Okay, so I didn't know I was going to write it, Jason and Dom. It was 25 years ago. My 33-year marriage had broken up. I was a mess. Right? I was just a wreck. And I didn't know what to do with myself. And a friend of mine introduced me to a chocolatier, a person who made chocolates in the mountains of North Carolina. And I was angry enough and upset enough, and there was some money there. I decided to open a chocolate company in North Carolina, and I knew nothing about chocolate. I knew nothing about business. And I put on about 40 pounds that year, sampling because they were the best. So at the time, though, I was so heartbroken. I met someone and I fell madly in love. And really, it filled the hole in my heart. I didn't know what else to do. I was so miserable. I kind of shifted from pity parties, right, into being deeply in love, lust, like kind of teenage crush. But it went further than that. So every weekend, I had a full-time job as I drove every weekend up to the chocolate company to take care of the books, etc., while the chocolatier had spent the whole week making all these fabulous truffles, right? I didn't have anything to do. It was 4 hours straight on Interstate 40. It was around 2000, 2001, something like that, maybe 2002. And I didn't have audiobooks. And so it was so boring that on one of the trips, I started creating this world. And of course, it was with this man that I was desperately in love with. So being in love and that vibration is what fueled this. And as soon as I get 4 hours later into Asheville, the first thing I would do is sit down and document what I had visualized. Now, this was all the exterior, the planet, the topography, the inhabitants, right? There was no story yet. There was just all of the background information. And very often I've discovered that if your dream or your goal is bigger than you know, the universe will hold back and not let you have it until you have learned what you need to learn to enjoy the process. So 22 years later, I thought, and I had a way to publish an episode every week, which I did in 12 weeks. Then last summer, it was launched and it won first place international in a number of categories. Mostly I'm proud of literature and fiction and science fiction and fantasy. So it took a lifetime of learning, because the book is all about virtues, values, and soul-kissing love. And I didn't know much about it back then because I was hurting, but I know about it now. So I hope that answers your question.
That's incredible. No, I love it. I
Thank you.
absolutely love it. I, I can't wait to dive in. I don't know why I haven't gotten it beforehand, because I've been talking to you. I've been in the same circles. And like, why can't I hold that book up? I will correct that the next time
A
you see
little
me.
busy, Jason.
I will correct that. But you know what? What do you want the readers to take away from the book?
I want them to remember what young love is about. What a world with virtues and values, the things that make us feel really good. I want people to be able to escape, really, and that's the fifth dimension. The way I see this is the fifth dimension is in your mind. You don't go anywhere. And so the more time you can spend in an environment, a visual environment, which makes you feel really good, that's focused on keeping your values and living by virtues, no matter how difficult it is, that's where we want to be. And it's beautiful and it's magical. And there's a lot of naive love and mystery. And the second book, part of the reason we're doing the audiobook now is the second book is about halfway finished. And so I'm going to start the second book with the last episode of the first, so that you don't actually have to go back and reread the book. And the audiobook is, many people would prefer to listen, and it's 90 minutes and I recorded it. So it's in my voice. And that was a challenge in itself, I can tell you.
Yeah, that is awesome. Jason, I'm sorry. I have a question.
No, please.
And you can decide whether or not we want to keep this in. But it's something that I find really interesting, Leslie.
Yeah.
And I thought about it as Jason was reading the kind of teaser questions to your book. There are a lot of what if questions. And I'm really curious, in the work that you do, you work a lot with mindset, goal achievement, and a lot of business individuals or those who just want to achieve something. Mm-hmm. I'm curious, what could you pull out the link for us between like just that kind of what if thinking that you just mentioned, fantasy thinking, or there's just the ability to unlock that in your mind and make that practical and translate it to the world that we live in. And you're sitting around a table with business leaders or an entrepreneur trying to build a business. What is that connection? And can you kind of clarify that for us?
I think I know where you're going with this. And what came up for me really is the development of agile thinking and the clarity in how our mind works. You know, I've discovered that out of confusion comes order. If we sit with something long enough, we will come up with solutions. And then we'll sit down again and we'll be at a higher level of awareness and new things will come up. The most important thing is to teach yourself, first of all, to look for the great in others, the goodness in other people, right? So because the first thing we do is look for what's wrong. And I don't need to go into why, but that's what we do generally. But that doesn't feel good. So the idea here is to maintain a very high vibration of love and kindness as often as possible. One way to do that is anything that you would judge, don't do that. And remind yourself that there's something good in every person that's based on the law of polarity. Even if it's small, the size is not irrelevant to this. So what you actually are doing is teaching yourself to think a certain way, to look for the greatness in others. It's always there. It changes everything about you. And you, as you find it in others, it grows in you because we're reflections of each other. So if you don't see any greatness in anybody else, then you don't see it in yourself. So you can actually expand your own level of character and leadership by looking for it in other people. I'm not sure I answered the question. Oh, well, the most important thing is that you may not know how you're going to do something. When you sit down and you're looking at creating something, the most important thing is that you don't know how, that you have no clue. You might know a couple of steps, but if you knew how to do it, you would have already done it. So the real growth occurs. The greatest gifts to mankind were started without knowing how. They had a why, and whatever fear they had about not being able to was obliterated by the compelling desire to bring this thing into the world. It has to be so strong that when your natural fears come up, yeah, but what if, I don't know how, it doesn't matter, because all of your energy and your focus is on what difference it will make in the world. What impact will it have when this thing comes to fruition? That's probably the biggest key that I've taught to over 500 people that have set and achieved goals over 12 weeks with me over those 17 years, that you must not know how. Do not do it if you know how. You might know a couple of steps, but the magic in living in this work, inside this work, is that what you want is already coming toward you. It's moving toward you at the same velocity you're moving toward it. So if we know how to do something and we plot out all the steps, then the people and opportunities that we've already attracted with not knowing how will walk right by us. So not knowing how, not setting out every step, is how you can outwit your fears and achieve with consistency.
Wow. And
That was a mic drop moment right there.
It was. I really asked that for Chasen because it's a lot that he doesn't know. And I just wanted you to encourage him. I needed you to encourage him for me.
I knew it. I knew it.
Dom, you have to come to one of Leslie does Mind Over Matter Mondays at
With
10
me.
a.m. Jason has been there, and
Yes.
only a short while ago, she invited me to co-host with her. But you need to attend one of those, and trust me, you are going to walk away with so much. You're going to be thinking about it until the next Monday, because it happens to me all the time.
I haven't noted. Thank you for that.
Good.
Oh my goodness. We have been talking to Leslie Flowers and Nic, the gifted bipolar writer, Nicole Angai-Galindo, in the house with my buddy Dom Jones. And right above his shoulder is that QR code you can scan for the book. Ladies, show your copies of the book again. This beautiful book. There it is. There it is. The Possibility of eRADA. Get your copy today. Thank you, ladies, for being on the show. I am Chasen Forehand.
And I'm Dom Jones.
There we go. And this has been Time to Change.